Hey everybody, this is Richard from Rich Pokebets. Welcome to the channel. This is my first video, and so appreciate you all being here. Hopefully you guys enjoy what you see, and if you do, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Today's video was inspired by the Poke Office. If you haven't seen his videos, go ahead and watch them. He's a great guy, makes some great content around Pokemon. But he just released a video that was the top 100 cards in the Sword and Shield era, according to market price. And so I thought it was a really interesting video, and it had me thinking, how is Scarlet and Violet doing? You know, you get so much hate around Generation 9, the Pokemon sucks, no one's collecting right now, all the cards are worthless right now. So I really wanted to see how well or how bad the era is currently performing. My hunch is it's performing a lot better than we think, and that just the voices of negativity are just louder than the positive voices. But let's go ahead and just dive into this list. But before we get started, let's go ahead and review the rules and kind of guidelines that I set for this. So the first one is we'll not be including Twilight Masquerade. The reason for this is simple. One, it's not out yet, and two, in the first couple weeks of any set, we see a ton of market manipulation happening, especially with temporal forces. This last set that was released, we saw a lot of market manipulation happening where the prices were absolutely skyrocketing. And so I just don't want to deal with that right now and kind of misguide you all and myself of like, hey, these cards are amazing when one week they could be in the top 10 and another week they can be in the top 50. So the next rule is we're not going to include staff cards. So basically these are cards that have a stamp of staff for Pokemon employees or like staff at events and stuff like that. Really, you can only get it if you're an employee, and so it's just not really obtainable for the general public, so I excluded that. In that kind of same realm, I'm going to be excluding the Paradise Resort World Finals card. This, according to TCG Marketplace, is a $700 card, and I just thought, one, that's a huge outlier, it's going to skew our results, and two, again, not a card that was easily obtainable for everyone. So the last rule is everything's going to be based off of TCG market price. So let's go ahead and dive right in. I'm not going to be going over in depth every single Pokemon and card on this list, but I'll just do some like high level overview as I go through it. So at number 100, we have Tapu Koko. Something cool that I thought just putting this list together was that everything is above $11. So we have everything starting in double digits in the top 100, which is pretty cool. The Tapu Koko, not a fan of the Pokemon itself. I love the colors and the art in the card though. And that's kind of what you're gonna see in a lot of the Scarlet and Violet era, is just the art is amazing. A few other callouts on this page is we have some gold cards from Temporal Forces. We have 2 baby shinies. That's going to be a regular occurrence of a baby shiny from Paldea and Fates. And at number 94, we have Pikachu, and so that's a promo card. So promo cards are included in this list. That's from the recent collection box. It's not worth it outside of this promo card, but you will see promo and Pokemon Center cards in this top 100. For 81 through 90, we have a lot of gold cards. So you can see the Crydon and Chien-Pao from Paldea and Fates. And then we have the Raging Bolt and the Iron Crown from Temporal Forces. Cool cards nonetheless, but we do see like gold cards not doing too well. And so I think we'll see a couple more throughout the rest of this video. But you can see for the most part, gold cards are just underperforming what I think the Pokemon Company thought they would. We see another baby shiny with Ditto. We see a couple trainer special illustrations with both being Arven, funny enough. And that Steelix card is one of the cards I think that are actually going to start to see some rise in like the next 6 to 12 months. For number 71 through 80, we see a lot of special illustration rares starting to pop through. And so we see Penny, Skeledirge, Mela, Meowscarada, and Salvatore all being special illustrations, all at $13 to $15. And so we're going to start seeing a lot more special illustrations as we go throughout the set. But these are 5 really good ones. Penny has the Umbreon in it, and so that's where kind of that lore comes from. Meowscarada and Skeledirge are both starters from this new era of Scarlet and Violet, and so I do think their cards are really pretty and good to look at. Again, 2 more baby shinies with Snorlax and Xatu, but the one outlier here is Iron Hands. And so this is the only like ultra rare like basic EX that we're gonna see in this top 100. And the main reason is because it's incredibly competitive right now in the Pokemon TCG. So this is not a card that I would invest in per se and for the future, just because once this card becomes out of cycle, I can see it going back down to like a $1-2 card. Maybe it might hold like a $3 card for nostalgia reasons, but it is not going to stay $15 for its lifetime. Also, we have the Crydon there. That's going to be the first Pokemon Center stamp there. And so this is from one of the Scarlet and Violet based ETBs. So yeah, keep an eye for that Pokemon stamp. Number 61 through 70, and so I did make a little bit of a mistake including a Japanese card at 70. What this is Scarlet and Violet promo number 1, but at the same time I'm kind of happy I included it because this is like 1A to R1B of the first promo for the Scarlet and Violet era. You can see it's actually an exact replica as far as the art goes with number 62, which is the Pokemon Center ETB from Paldea Evolved. But this one has some Japanese stamps as well in there, and so it's a cool card, and the fact that it's number 1 is pretty cool. The other callouts from this page is we see our first 151 cards in Ivysaur and Dragonair from the Scarlet and Violet 151 set, and we see our first kind of like waifu cards with Iona, Professor Seda, and Paracel Lady. So this is kind of a common theme right now where those trainer cards are going to be higher value. The Iono is actually a promo card from the Iono carton, but we'll see Iono a lot later, I promise. Numbers 51 through 60 are absolutely kind of just destroyed by Scarlet and Violet 151. We have 6 out of the 10 cards on this page from that. The Pikachu full art, the Pikachu alt rare, I think is amazing. It was the first alt rare I was able to pull from Scarlet 151, and I just think it's a really cool card to look at. It's got the Growlithe in there, as well as the Jigglypuff. We see the full arts of Venusaur, Mew, and Blastoise. Erica's Invitation Special Illustration Rare is an amazing card, and then you have the War Turtle as well. We see another baby shiny with the Pidgey, and the only reason that's super high is just because for whatever reason, it wasn't printed a lot. It's not that Pidgey's a 151 original card or anything like that, and that's why it's so high. It's just not a lot of people have it, which means value goes up when demand is high. So we're finally into our top 50, and you can see that 49 out of the 50 cards, we can round up the Iron Hands. So the 50 cards in the top 50 are $20 or above, which is pretty cool to think about. I don't think a lot of people kind of realize that. I didn't realize that for sure before putting this list. I thought it was going to be more like top 40, top 35, but pretty cool where we're going. You can see again the Fluke with Iron Hands being the competitive card. The full art version of the one that we looked at before is about $20. Again, that's going to go down. Ghastly on here has been on an absolute roller coaster as far as pricing goes. It initially, I think, released around like $16, dropped to about $12, shot up to $40, and is now back to $20, which is, I think, is where it's going to be for a while. Cool art. You got Ghastly, Haunter, and Gengar in there, and so obviously you're going to love it. We have our first Obsidian Flames card in here with that Charizard EX Gold, and so that's going to be by far and away the least represented set is going to be the Obsidian Flames. We only have one more card remaining from that set. Just not a great set in general. So some cool arts like with the Cleffa, just not super high in value, but potentially one day we'll see. For 31 through 40, we see once again a lot of special illustration rares with the Iron Valiant, Chin-Pao, Airy, Iono, Altaria, and Gardevoir. I just pulled the Gardevoir the other day, and it's an amazing card. I absolutely love it. I think it's criminally underrated. It was constantly between 15 and 20, but we are seeing it jump a little bit. It's actually the number 2 card from the Scarlet and Violet base era right now, but I can see it being number 1 one day. We got a few more art rares from 151 with Charmander and Squirtle, which are beautiful cards as well, and then another baby shiny with that Charmander. I think we've got 2 more remaining, or 1 more actually. So with 21 and 31, this is where we see our first jump on the page. You can see number 30 we have at $29.60. Number 21 we have at $39.01. So almost a $10 jump, and just the previous page we had only like a $5 jump, so it basically doubled that. And you can start to see why some of these cards are a lot more expensive than the other ones. Again, with the exception of Iron Hands, although I love the special illustration rare, it's because it's a competitive card right now. People want to bling out their decks and have the best looking card. That's why it's a $30 card. I don't think it's a $30 card without it being competitive, but I do see it staying around this price just because it is a really cool card. It's a special illustration. It's hard to pull. But we see cards like Tyranitar, Charizard, Zapdos, Snorlax, Alakazam, you know? Some cards that are just absolutely beloved in the Pokemon community are going to naturally have a higher price tag to it. We also see Prime Catcher, our first and only A-Spec on this list. And so A-Specs are something that were introduced in the Temporal Forces set, and that was the first time it was introduced in the Scarlet and Violet era. I believe like the X and Y era, or maybe even before that, had A-Specs, and so it had been a few generations before we saw that. And so the hype around A-Specs, as well as being a really competitive card, is why it's at such a high dollar value. And then we see again a couple waifu cards with Bianca's Devotion and Miriam being the #1 card from the Scarlet and Violet base set. I think it's a cool card, but like I said, I think Gardevoir is going to pass it probably before the end of the year is my guess. Now for this page, I want you guys to just kind of take a quick look at it and see what sticks out to you. Outside of the price difference being $11 from 20 to 11, so that's being our biggest jump so far, and we're only going to see that jump get higher and higher. Every single Pokemon on this list, on this page, is either from Generation 1, Generation 2, or Generation 3. And I know Walking Wake and Gouging Fire are in Gen 9, but their original forms, Entei and Suicune, are in Gen 2. We see a lot of love in the first 3 generations, and that's why these prices are so high. I know Morty's Conviction itself is a trainer card, but it has Gengar, which is one of everyone's most favorite Pokemons ever. And so you have Pikachu, which is another top favorite. You've got a Charizard, and then people love Blastoise and Venusaur, and you've got that amazing Gardevoir as well. And so you're going to see, as you get to everyone's favorite Pokemons, especially in the special illustration form, 9 of these 10 are special illustrations, with the only one being that baby Pikachu at $44, which is crazy that it's almost as much as the Gardevoir SIR in the same set. But yeah, not only are these just amazing arts, they're just fan favorite Pokemon, and so we're gonna see a lot of value from these cards. And this is our top 10 excluding number 1, 2, and 3. And so these are cards that if you've been following this era, you're very familiar with. You've got the Roaring Moon being the #1 card from Paradox Rift. You've got Raging Bolt and Iron Crown EX being the top 2 cards from Temporal Forces. Iona, like I mentioned earlier, was the #1 card from Paldea Evolved for the longest time until it got jumped. And then Mew was competing for the #1, but has slowly trickled down, but still has a pretty good grasp on that #2 spot. The 2 weird ones from this are #5 and #4, and these are just Pokemon Center promos. So the Pikachu with the gray hat, or the Van Gogh Pikachu, as a lot of people know, this was during like the Van Gogh event they had. They were handing this at a museum. If you had orders of 30 or more on the Pokemon Center, you could get one with it, but they were incredibly limited on the number of cards that they had. And so this card instantly just started rising and rising. I believe it got up to 160 raw. We can see it's now just under 100 just because they have handed out more in Europe to people, and so that's kind of decreased just the market price, just because we have a higher volume and stuff available for this card. But that Squirtle promo, all that is just the reverse holo of the regular Squirtle with a Pokemon Center stamp. And so the card, which is like a 25-cent card, goes up to an $88 card just because of one stamp, which is absolutely insane. I'm happy that I have one, but I'm also just very confused why it's so high. But hey, collectors love their kind of like nuanced one-offs, and that's kind of where this card falls in line. At number 3, we have probably my favorite card from this era so far. It's the Magikarp from Paldea Evolved. It shouldn't be too hard to get, but for whatever reason it is, and it's even harder to grade, and so that's where you see a lot of the value. Raw, it's going for about $100, but if you can get a PSA 10, you're going to be bringing home a lot of money, just because the pop on that is pretty low, just because it's really hard to grade. At number 2, we have the Charizard EX. This is from Paldean Fates, and naturally the Charizard card is going to be the highest from that set. So this card for the longest time was the #1 card in the Scarlet and Violet era. It kind of fluctuated around 120 for a while, even got up to 130, but has slowly just been dipping. I think we're still going to see it like around a $90 to $100 card once everything's all said and done for a little while. Not a big fan of the art personally. I think it's hard to see the Charizard. Everything's just kind of like blurred together, but I do get it because it's a Charizard card. It's shiny and it is a cool card, just personally not my favorite. But for the #1 card, we have again another Charizard. So our top 2 cards are Charizard, and so Charizard EX from Scarlet and Violet 151 is at a market price of around $116 right now. And this card, I think, originally started at like 125, 120. It dropped to a little bit above 100, but has slowly kind of moved back up. And so it's done a really good job staying at above 100, which is something that no other card in the Scarlet Violet era was able to maintain before it. And so we never saw the Iono get that high, or at least maintain it. The Magikarp is now getting to that point, but that's only as of recent. And then the Paldean Fates Charizard came out afterwards. And so it's a cool card. I really enjoy it. Unfortunately, the one that I pulled has a dent in the corner, and so can't grade that, but I can at least say I pulled the Charizard EX and it's sitting comfortably in my binder. So how does each set kind of perform overall? So I put together this table to show which set has the highest total market price in the top 100. And you can see 151, Temporal Forces, and Paldean Fates are all pretty close, around that $500+ mark. They carry most of the weight with these sets, and that makes sense. Paldean Fates has a ton of cards available, and a lot of those baby shinies are hard to get, and so people are going to want to pay a lot for them. In addition to that, the special illustration rares that are shiny, the Mew, Gardevoir, and Charizard, are just great cards in general. Temporal Forces has a lot of great cards as well too, and the pull rates are really low, which is why these prices are a lot higher, just because it's been so far the hardest set to pull anything in. As for 151, just the nostalgia of 151, everyone loves collecting the original 151, and it brought a lot of people back into the Pokemon TCG game, and so those prices are just going to be a lot higher and super inflated, and honestly going to maintain that high price probably for its whole life. So at the end of the day, Scarlet and Violet has $2,843.01 in the top 100. And so let me know what you think. Does this seem high? Does this seem too low? Do you think it's in a good state? Like I said, we're only halfway through this generation, so we got a lot more cards that come out. All it takes is for an Umbreon or a Rayquaza or something like that to be released for prices to start getting skewed and start going up. And so anyways, I'll see you all in the next video.